Hello and welcome. Today we are going to do a tutorial on how to transfer embroidery designs from your computer to a USB stick so that you can use your USB stick in your embroidery machine. Now this information is going to be broadly applicable across machine brands, so don't worry if I don't mention a specific model or a brand by name. Most of this information will be the same across the board. If it's not, then don't worry because I will say when it will and won't be applicable. Alright, so to get started, USB embroidery design transfers. The things you are going to need is a computer, be that a laptop or a desktop. Some tablets will work, but it's really best to use a laptop or a desktop. You'll want to be hooked up to the internet. So you'll want your Wi-Fi on and connected. You don't need Wi-Fi for just transferring designs once they're downloaded, but you do need it for this tutorial because we're going to be doing some navigation to websites. And then you're also going to need a USB stick. And we'll talk about what kind of USB stick you need, but you're going to need one today. Alright, USBs, which one and why? Almost every current embroidery machine utilizes a USB-A port. USB-As will look like this, and their port will look like this. It should be noted, before I move on, that many newer embroidery machines, such as the Bernina 990, have begun putting USB-C ports in, and we'll see those in a second. So make sure you take a look at what your ports look like on your machine. But this is a very new change. So again, broadly, most machines will use a USB-A, as well as most laptops or computers will have a USB-A port. And if it does, congratulations, you can use the standard flash drive, or you might hear it called the USB stick, or a thumb drive. I will be using these terms interchangeably. They all mean the same thing. However, if your computer or tablet, or if you happen to be using your phone, again, I don't recommend it, you may be using a USB-C port. It's going to look like this. It's a little bit more oval shaped, and the port will also be more oval shaped. So take a look at what kind of port style your machine has and what kind of port style your computer has. Fear not if you have a mixture. So if your computer has a USB-C and your machine has a USB-A, they make dual flash drives, dual-ended. So you have an A at one end and a C at the other end. You can also get USB-A to USB-C adapters. You have one like this, where it has the A here and the C coming out, and you can just pop that on the end. Or you have these longer ones, sometimes called pigtails. Same kind of thing. So there's always a workaround, but typically you're going to be utilizing just the USB-A. It probably won't have a secondary plug-in on the other end. Now, how much memory do you need? 2 to 8 gigabytes is best practice, though many of your manuals may say you can use more. Often, I've seen them go up to 16 in some manuals, but best practice is a smaller gig. 2 to 8, 2 to 4 is really what I would probably recommend. So if you can use more, why wouldn't you? It's easy to put way too much on one of those USB sticks, and it will ultimately overwhelm your sewing machine, and it makes it harder for you as well. We want this to be an easy process. So let's put it all into context, because we can throw these numbers, these gigabytes, and these kilobytes around without actually knowing what any of that stuff means. So 1 gigabyte is equal to 1,000,000 kilobytes. So again, what does that mean? An average embroidery design file, so that's the one design that you're going to stitch out, is usually between 5 to 120 kilobytes. This is just an average. So one design between 5 to 120. I grabbed a design CD that I had lying around. This was Majestic Wildlife. This CD had 54 designs on, and if I look at just one file type, so ART file type, 54 of those designs, that means 54, bears, elk, all those things. That would only take up a total of 7,413 kilobytes. So in theory, you could have around 238 collections worth of designs on one 2 gigabyte stick. But please do not do that. Don't do it. We don't want to overwhelm us or the machines. That's way too much information to sort through. Now, I keep bringing up file types. Why do you need to know about file types? Different kinds of information and boundaries are transferred depending on the file. Some file types combine information into one package, like PES, and anytime you see an acronym like this, a dot, PES or a .PEXP, these are just the names of file types. So I might refer to it as PES, or I might refer to PS, same thing. So some files types combine information into one package like PES. Some, like Bernina, which is .exp, require 3 files to be moved together. .pen prevents non-brother machines from using Disney designs. Or some files like .jef or JEF, which are used by Janome, are non-editable formats. You can think of file types as languages. Each brand of embroidery machine speaks and reads its native language. This would be the file type that will give you the best stitch-out quality and the best results. But then most embroidery machines today are multilingual in the sense that they can read different file types. However, some things can get lost in translation if we're not using the native file type. So here's an example of why these kinds of file types and information are important. If we're doing just the EXP, which is the embroidery design itself, this is the stitching information, you will see an image kind of like this. It'll stitch out. Your colors might be a little wonky. The way the stitches look in the example will be a little wonky. So then we have to have the other information. So a .bmp, this would be like the bitmap. This is the thumbnail image. The thumbnail meaning the little image preview of what you're going to stitch out that pops up either on your machine's screen or on your computer's screen. And within that package would also be the INF. This is the thread color information. This is what allows your image, when it's on your computer or on your machine, to have the correct stitching, the correct colors, and give you a more rounded information and view of the file. That's an example of why it would be important to make sure we have the right file and why we want to move all of our files that we need together. Now, feel free to pause here, take screenshots, or write down, take notes. What language does your machine read? Over here, I have a decently comprehensive list of brands, their native file type, often depending on model, and the kinds of file types those brands can read, again, depending on model. It's good to always cross-reference within your machine's manual. Because you have certain exceptions, like from Bernina, generally they read EXP or Art. Art would be for the earlier, say, Artista embroidery machines from like the early 2000s. They can read those, but they can't read EXP. Most modern ones can all read both. But some of the newest models, like the Pros, can also read BQM, which is actually a long arm file type. Or like how Brother can read these PEN file types, which is the exclusive for Disney designs. So it's good to just keep an eye out. We want to make sure we get the right file types. Also, just a little note on the side. You'll see my note here at the bottom. Melco, which if you have a Melco, it's most likely a multi-needle. They have a different EXP. So if you see EXP and you see Melco EXP, those are different file types. Melco, you'll just want to use that for your multi-needle. You won't want to use that on your Bernina. So now you have the correct transfer device, your USB stick, and you know the correct file type. Now what do? Now we have to prep our USB stick for the first time you're using it. To do that, we're going to format the USB to FAT32. FAT32 means file allocation table. This process makes sure that the data we put on the flash drive is broadly compatible across devices. So take a moment, plug your USB stick into your computer, and then we can get going. Now that your USB stick is put into your machine, you're going to look for the File Explorer. Typically, this is going to live on the taskbar, which would be down at the bottom of your computer. And it's indicated by a file icon like this one above. Yours may look slightly different, but generally they are all yellow files. If you cannot find it, there should be a search bar also located on that bottom taskbar, and you can just type in file and it should pull it up for you. When you find it, you're going to left click on it and it should pull up your File Explorer window. You'll have various things on the left-hand side, downloads, pictures, etc. And you may need to scroll down until you see your USB drive. Now, sometimes coming from different manufacturers, the drives come named. So you may see a different name here, like eFan or something like that. But it should always have this drive at the end. And often it's located underneath this PC on the left side of your File Explorer. Right-click this time on the USB drive, and by right-clicking, that'll bring up this menu with several options. We're going to look for the one that says Format, and we're going to left-click on that. Left-click on where it says Format. That will bring up another window. It should say Format USB drive at the top. We'll see capacity. This will show you how much memory space is available on that stick. And then File System. If FAT32 is not already pulled up, as it often is because it's a default type, you might need to use the drop-down menu, which we'll do by left-clicking on the little arrow, and that'll drop it down, and you'll just left-click and select the FAT32. Once it looks like this, you can name it if you wish. You don't have to. And then you will left-click on Start. That will bring up another pop-up. This will be a warning. Don't be afraid. It's just letting you know that by formatting, it's going to erase any data that happens to be on there. We should be starting with a blank stick for this. However, if it's not blank, you'll want to make sure you get everything, if you want to save it, off first, because it will be erased. We never want to be mixing our embroidery designs and our family vacation photos, our important documents. Our embroidery machine does not want to have to deal with trying to read all those different kinds of files. So once we've read our warning, we understand what's going to happen. We're going to left click on the OK button, and it'll be formatted. Now we're going to pause here. If you have a Janome, we're going to look at this page and we'll go through another step. If you do not have a Janome, you can skip past this and we'll rejoin in a minute. So for Janome users, you will need to do an extra step, with the exception of the MC 15000 and I believe the M17, the newest Janome machine. You don't have to do this step. However, it's still an option and this will still work. But for any of the older models, like the ones listed on this table, or the 500, 550, you will need to do this process. So you're going to eject your USB stick. And if you want to wait and go through this whole video and come back later, I will explain how to eject towards the end. But you're going to eject your USB stick. You're going to walk over to your embroidery machine. Make sure it's turned on. You're going to insert your USB stick into your Janome. Make sure if yours is a sewing and embroidery, you'll want to make sure you're on the embroidery side of your machine. If it's an embroidery only, just put it right on in. This is going to put a special folder onto the USB stick, and you're going to need that for your machine to be able to read the designs later on. So you just put the USB stick in, take it out, and put it back into your laptop or computer, and then we can continue on. This process actually puts a folder that has a smaller folder inside of it. It'll put an EMB folder onto your USB stick. In the subfolder is one labeled EMBF. The 350 puts on one that says My Design, but generally it's going to say EMBF. EMBF is where you're going to be putting your designs later on. So again, this is Janome's only, and once this is done, we can continue with putting our designs on here. All right, now that we've all joined back together, Janome, Bernina, Faf, everybody together, it's time to get a design. In this tutorial, we're going to be using the OESD website for our example walkthrough. However, this process is pretty similar across embroidery design websites. So OESD, Urban Threads, Nosy Pepper, any of those that you might come across, they're going to be a little different, but the overall process is going to be fairly same. So we're doing this just to get you a design, and then so that we have something to use for learning how to move our designs around. I'm going to walk you through that real quick. So we're going to hop over to a browser, meaning open your Chrome, your Firefox, things like that. And you're going to type in www.oesd.com. That's going to take us to their main page. You're going to want to sign in or create an account. If you already have one, great. To do that, you're going to look for this little person icon up by the search bar. It should bring a pop-up like this. It should say sign in. On some websites, a pop-up will appear before anything else that'll say sign up for a newsletter. That's not the same thing. We want to sign in or register for the site. So you're going to put, if you already have an account, you're going to put your email address or your username in, your password, sign in. If not, you're going to register. It takes just a few minutes generally. Then up on the top banner, you'll see several options. We're going to click on embroidery designs. That's going to take us to another page. For this tutorial, again, we're just trying to grab something just so we have a file to work with. OESD tends to have at least 1 or 2 free designs. They rotate through, so when you do this, you may see different designs than what are featured in this presentation, but it'll all work the same. So to find those, we're just going to go over here. We're going to sort not by relevance, but by low to high. So you're going to left click on that. And then the designs will be resorted so that the lowest priced ones are at the top, etc., etc. So you will see at the time I was putting this together, there were 3 free designs. You can see there's no price listed below. And we are going to use the Summer Glow Fireflies in this example. So you'll left click on the design. That will bring you to a design window. These are always really good to look at when you're downloading designs because they give you a lot of good information. They will give you the name or the code for that particular design or that collection, depending on the website. They'll often list out how many stitches are in each individual design. That can sometimes give you an idea of how long it may take to stitch out. It will tell you the size, probably both in inches and in millimeters. This is good to check to see if it's going to fit in the hoops that you have. And it should list out somewhere all the available formats this design comes in. So you'll want to peek at those and make sure that the format file type that your machine reads is listed out here, because that means that your machine can then stitch this design out later. So again, just kind of peek at those. And then you're going to add it to the cart. All right, now that we have added it to the cart, something may pop up. You're just going to want to view or edit your cart. It should be down here. And see everything. This one is free at this time. Again, by the time you see this video, these free designs may have changed. But again, the process will be the same. So we're going to check out. This will take you, this one says payment is not required. Perfect. We're going to place that order. So left click on that. And you should have a confirmation page of some kind. So on here, it's not an instant download. You're going to have to go through another step. You'll see where it says download design and instructions. There's a blue, it's a little hard to see, but this word here is in blue. And that is a link. We're going to left click on that. And it's going to take us to our design page. So these would designs that you have quote unquote purchased, whether they were free or not. These are the ones you have obtained. So you can see down here, information, file formats, all available file formats, all available formats. As you can see down here, you have file format, and it lists all available formats. You don't need all of the formats downloaded, because most likely you have one brand of machine at home that you're working with, and you just need to put the native file type onto your USB stick that works with that machine. So to do that, so you will select this drop-down menu with a left click. and you'll see all of the options available. For this example, I'm just going to use the EXP file type, but when you're doing it, choose the one that works for your machine. You'll see that's now listed in the view, and we're going to download. Often your download icon will look something like this. It's an arrow pointing down onto a line or onto a box, something like that. You're going to left click on that. Your download will then usually appear in the upper right hand corner of your browser if you're downloading from a website. And that pop-up will look something like this. You can see again this arrow pointing down to a line. That's your download icon. So from here, you can either click the open file when this pop-up happens, or you can open your File Explorer directly. Again, the File Explorer typically lives on your taskbar at the bottom of your screen and is indicated by that file icon. Once that File Explorer pops back up, you'll see that on the left-hand side, your downloads is highlighted. If it's not, if you're opening it directly, you'll just want to left click and select your downloads, because that's where your most recent download will be located. So here we have the design we just got. Now you'll notice, it may be hard to tell, but there's a little gray line on our file. If I could zoom it in, what you would actually see is a little zipper. And you'll see over here, under type, it says compressed. And if you could see the rest of it, it says zipped. We need to unzip or open the file before we move it. So to do that, we're going to left click on it. To select it, you'll see there's probably a check mark of some kind near it. It'll be highlighted. And then we're going to extract all. This should be up at the top. And again, we're going to left click on that. A window such as this will pop up. It'll say extract compressed or zipped folders. That's exactly what we want to do. You don't need to change anything here. We won't worry about that right now. And then you will left click on the extract button. Now, on your File Explorer, you'll see two of the same named files, but now one of them will not have the little zipper on it, and it will just say something like file folder. It will no longer say zipped or compressed. This is the one that we will want to work with. Now, to get it from our downloads onto our USB stick, you can see that it's still sitting over here on the left-hand side, just like it was at the very beginning. There's two different ways I'm going to show you how to do that. The first is to select and drag the unzipped file to your USB drive. You'll do that by left clicking and holding on the file, and you will click and hold and drag it over here. And once the USB drive is highlighted, you'll let go. Then usually a pop-up will appear that says something like copying blank number of items to USB drive. That means we are successful. The other way you can do it is to select and right-click on the unzipped file folder. This will bring a pop-up window up. And then you can either push the copy button right here, or you can also press Control and C on your keyboard at the same time. This will also copy. And you just have to hit them together and then you can let go. You don't have to keep holding those two keys on your keyboard. And then you will go over to USB drive, and again, right-click on it. Then you will go over to your USB drive, and you will click, or you may need to double-click with your left clicker on your mouse to open the USB drive. You can see up here, you can see what folder you're in. You're in the USB drive. And in this area, where it's just a blank space, you're going to right-click, which will bring your window up, and you can push paste, or you can Control V, and that will paste in here. If you have a Janome, you will have a file in here, that EMB file. Before you paste, you will need to double left click on that EMB file. It should open and you'll see the EMBF file. You'll double click on that, and then you will copy and paste. Again, that little piece is just for Janome users. So once those are all pasted in there or copied in there, you should see some files pop up. EXP will always have multiple files. If it's not an EXP, like if you're using the Husqvarna, which I think is the HUS, or the JEF files, you will have a different number. Don't stress about it. Sometimes you will also see information like a PDF, which is a printable document. That is usually either the instructions for your design and or the thread chart. Those can all be put in on your USB stick. That is okay. So you'll see some files in here. Again, you can always check up here if you're inside your USB stick or not, because you'll have USB drive, and then you're inside your file folder. Great, you did it. Your designs are on your stick now. So now we want to come over here. We're going to right-click on your USB stick, bring that pop-up window up, and then you're going to select Eject with your left mouse click. You're going to left-click Eject. That will pop up probably a little window in your lower right-hand corner that says it's safe to remove your hardware. This means you can now take your USB stick out of your computer and you can start your new project. The designs are on there. It's safe to remove. So you take your USB stick and now you can go over and plug it into your machine and start your new embroidery project. So, congratulations. Hopefully you have a design now on your stick. Hopefully you have a little bit more confidence in being able to move these files around yourself. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Happy sewing!